side of the brain is much more tied to emotions, okay? So if you can read, and it's tough to read because it's a little bit chaotic on the right side, but you have their intuition, you have love, you have freedom, you have passion, you have creativity. So, but wait a minute, we play the game early and we discovered that most people in the room are software engineers, and so we are going to be operating on the left side of the brain, and we need to simplify all the clutter of that image into simple concepts. And that is that the left side of the brain mostly deals with structured matters. As for the right side of the brain, as you might be thinking, the right side of the brain deals with mostly unstructured matters. Way before, I showed you a picture of a brain riding a bicycle. And then we said that engineering was all about the brain. Now pay attention. We said that the left side of the brain is related to the structured matters, to structured concepts. And we said on that slide that engineering was all about having ideas and building those ideas, constructing things. And if we take a good look, we can see that the substring struct is presented there on constructing, okay? So engineering is giving forms to ideas. Our original question is, how can we turn into being a better software engineer? As you might be imagining, the thesis, or one part of the thesis that we're presenting here, is that in order to become a better software engineer, since you already exercise and allot your left side of the brain, you need to learn to use also the right side of the brain. So we need to bridge the gap between the two sides of the brain. But while this brain matter is fascinating and we could be speaking about the brain for hours, let's put the brain on hold for a while. And we will do that because we are going to introduce another story, another arc in the story. And that's all about career. Like the brain, there are two sides to career. Actually, there are many more sides to career than just two, but for the sake of this presentation, let's try to focus on just two sides. The first thing about career is the goals that you set for your career, for yourself. The second thing about career is about the companies you work for. Or shall I say, the companies that you choose to work for. Goals and companies are very important because they both shape the engineer that you will turn to be. They both shape the path that you will go through. They both shape the road that you will travel. And don't forget that we start by showing a map of the brain. And if you think of your career as being a voyage, a journey that you are going to make, it all starts in the map. It all starts when you look to the map and understand where you are right now and where you want to be. And keeping with the metaphor about the road, we will speak a little bit about goals. And I chose that image there, which says, "Welcome to a milestone, enjoy the journey." Goals are nothing more than milestones. Goals are nothing more than milestones in the journey that we are making throughout our careers and throughout our lives. Actually, if you come to think of it, milestone is a word that is overused nowadays. Everybody here works at companies that have lots of milestones and that ask you guys to think about milestones, but we never stop really to understand what is a milestone. Milestones are those stone markers that happen to be along the roads and that tell you how far you have traveled since the beginning of the road or how much more you have to travel until the end of the road. So it's marks that are along the path. And as in any journey that you take, you need to be aware of your milestones in the road. Also in your career, you need to set goals. And you need to set those goals because those goals will help you reaching onto your destination, which in this case is to become a better software engineer. Goals have a very interesting thing about them, is that sometimes we fail to get our goals. Sometimes we cannot be successful achieving our goals. And The matter here is not understanding if we are being successful in our goals or not, but is about how we react to failure. Because failure is normal. Failure is what everybody in this room does every day. What is important is how we react to failure. So the proper attitude that we can use is use the failure to get better. And that means that we need to stop, take stock, and understand what has gone wrong and why it has gone wrong. This is the first part. The second part is actually to update our goals, to review our goals, to understand if our goals are proper at that context, at that moment, if we have the resources for that. Sometimes you will just update your goals. Sometimes you'll need to drop your goals because you'll figure out that your goals are not suited for you at the moment. The other aspects of career that we are going to focus are companies. And I really like this metaphor. I really like the idea of thinking of a company like a hive, like a beehive. If you look to that picture, you will see the beehive with some honey inside of the hexagons and the bees on top of that. And companies work a lot like hives. Like the hives, in companies there are also rewards that we can get. In the hive, the reward is obviously the honey. In companies, we will see what kind of rewards we have. But I will hint you with something. The rewards that you can get at companies are not just the monetary ones, are not just the ones that are related to the amount of money that you take home by the end of the month. One of the greatest rewards that we usually overlook when we look at companies is their growth potential to ourselves. And remember that we are discussing how to get from being a good engineer into a better engineer, okay? So it's all about growth. So company, much like a beehive, provides you structure, provides you a structure for your growth. If you look at beehives, you are going to have that whole matrix of small hexagons that are providing a structure to the work of the colonies, to the work of the bees, to the work of the individuals. And companies provide that for you, provide a structure, and you can leverage that structure for your own growth. Also, when you are working on a company, chances are that you are not going to be work alone. You will be part of a team. You will need to be a team player. You will need to learn about teamwork. And once again, think about the bees. One bee is not enough to make honey. You need a colony of them working cooperatively. The third thing that I think that companies resemble the beehives is regarding to practice. If we close our eyes and we think about the beehive, we are going to actually start to hear the bees buzzing around, and that will give us a perception of movement. There is lots of work going on in a beehive. It's frenetic. And in a company, it's the same. Why bees are working a lot? Because they are making honey. And what they are doing is that they are practicing their craft of making honey. So they are leaving the hive, they are flying to the flower, they are collecting the pollen, they are bringing the pollen back to the hive, they are deploying there the pollen and going back, flying again and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And this is practice. If you come to think of it, it works a lot like karate, where karate guys do lots of katas, like sequences of movements that they do time after time until they perfect that movement, until that movement becomes second nature. When you are at that point, if I'm fighting karate with somebody and if a guy comes and attacks me, my reaction will be immediately. It will be second nature. I will not be thinking on what I'm doing. And practice is the same. And companies offer you the chance to practice your skills, to get better at your craft. So companies can help a lot in your growth. Not just your professional growth, but also personal growth, as we will see in some moments. So now we come to an interesting point. Now we come to a point where we are going to join the two-story arcs. So we are going to join the brain business with the career business. And suddenly, our question of how to become a better software engineer turns into a challenge. And that challenge is to use the whole of your brain throughout your career so that you can become a better software engineer. So we change the perspective. We turn a question for something that we had no answer into a challenge of growth that we can use to get better. But most of our software engineers, so we just love to delete code. And if we went to the previous slide and delete some words that were not as much as necessary, we would end up with these two. So it boils down to brain and career. This is kind of the thesis that we are working on here in order to discover how to get better software engineers. If we come to think of it, brain and career work a lot like a polarity. So brain is what you have, and career is where you are at the moment. The question for brain is how you are going to use it. The question for career is what are you going to do? What is your next step going to be? Or why are you doing this step at the moment? And this is interesting because this ties with an old science adage, which was nature versus nurture. So brain is all about genetics. Career is all about the environment. So I had no choice in what kind of brain would end up inside my head when I was born. There was no form that I could have filled to specify the hardware that would get inside my head. I have to work with what I have, but still I have the free will to choose about the way that I'm going to use to develop my brain. For career, it's different. It's about environment, so it's choices that I made. Sometimes I cannot control the environment, but I can always control how I position myself in that environment. So we started with the brain, we jumped into career, and now we are going to jump back to the brain. And for the guys and girls here which are more connected to the presentation, you might be starting to figuring out that we are using precisely a right side of the brain approach. So we are jumping, we are not following a structure, or at least the structure is not linear as you would expect. So now that we spoke a little bit about career, let's go and understand what we can do to develop the right side of the brain. And this is a challenge. This is a challenge because we, as software engineers, tend to use more and to have more opportunities to operate with our left sides of the brain. So this is really going out of our comfort zone. It's not the matters that we do every day. And that's precisely what makes this very important. The first thing that I would like to tell you about the right side of the brain, and this is something that we all need to develop, it's emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is it's like milestone, it's like a kind of a buzzword. But what is emotional intelligence? It's the awareness and control of your own feelings and emotions. And more than that, is the ability and awareness about the other people's emotions and feelings. This is very important because we need to relate. Remember when we spoke about the companies that we said that there were teams in the companies that we were working cooperatively with other human beings? We need to be in a relationship with them. So we need emotional intelligence. We are going to have bad days. The people that work with us are going to have bad days. When people have bad days, emotions come out, and sometimes things get nasty. And that can happen to us, that can happen to the other party, and we need to be aware of that. So we need to be developing our emotional intelligence. The other thing that is very important and that we often overlook is vulnerability. Vulnerability tells us that it's okay not to run in an emotional armor all the time. It's okay to show that you can fail. It's okay to show that you don't know. It's okay to show that you make mistakes. I myself, I have made over a dozen mistakes since I have started this presentation. Some of them were noticed by you, some not. But believe me, I noticed them all. So it's important to be vulnerable. And why is this important? Because vulnerability is the base of trust. You need to be vulnerable in order to trust somebody, and you need to be vulnerable for somebody else to trust in you. And why is that? It's because when people run around with defenses, the other parties will get suspicious. Because in the end, we are all human. And sometimes we tend to forget about that, and we see that that guy has a very thick armor. That guy passes the idea that he never fails, that he knows everything. And so we get afraid. We get afraid because we perceive the other person as different from us. And we tend to trust more in the people that we know about, that we find similarities with them. Then comes sympathy. Sympathy is the ability to understand others. And this is very important because people need to feel understood. You have also empathy. And empathy is a different matter. Empathy is your ability to feel what others are feeling. It's the so-called to put yourself in their shoes. This is very important because people need empathy to become connected and to help each other. If I don't feel that what somebody else is feeling, I am unable to understand if that person needs help, and I will not be helping them. But if I am able to help them, it will be awesome, because we will be connected. There will be a bond between us. And this is incredible, because after that moment, that it's kind of an implicit contract where that people will look after me and I will look after that person. And this is how you can leverage offering help to somebody. You are creating a connection. If there's already a bond between you, the bond will be stronger. If there is no bond, you will create a new bond. Then we have compassion. Compassion is your ability to relieve others, to relieve people that are suffering or in distress. This is very important because, as we already discussed several times in this presentation, people make mistakes. To be human is to make mistakes. And when you make a mistake, you end up feeling very bad. You feel that you are deceiving the other people. You feel guilty. And the worst thing that you can do to somebody that is feeling bad is going there and tell the people something that will make the person feeling worse. So it's important to have compassion. It's important to be able to go there and just help the person going through that moment. Wait. Once again, you interrupt me. That's very confused. Most of us here are software engineers, so we are operating with the left side of the brain mostly. And you are speaking, you tell me, about lots of right side of the brain things, and all words like sympathy and empathy ending in THY, and that's extremely confused. So let's play the left side of the brain. Let's be engineers. Let's try to simplify it a little bit. So, sympathy, it's all about understanding. And it's about intellectual understanding. It's when you understand people in your mind. Empathy is when you feel people. It's when you understand people emotionally. It's when you understand people in your heart. Compassion is all about helping and relieving, and these are actions that we do to leave the other guy feeling better. And what about teamwork? Well, what a surprise. If you get sympathy, empathy, and compassion, teamwork gets improved and comes almost for free. And why is that? It's because teamwork happens when people understand each other on an intellectual level. On top of that, people feel each other and understand each other's emotions. And what is teamwork? Without help. Without I knowing that you are going to be there to cover me when I screw up, and you knowing that I will be doing the same for you. So if you get sympathy, empathy, and compassion right, you will have great chances to succeed at teamwork. But there's a bonus here, is that if you get sympathy, empathy, and compassion, communication will be improved as well. Because if you are understanding somebody in your mind, if you are able to feel what the other party is feeling, and if you are able to help them, you will be able to communicate with them very well. Perhaps you never thought about this, but most of the things that go wrong with communication have to do with emotions and feelings. Sometimes people are rude and harsh to each other because they are stressed, because they have a problem, because there's something that is going wrong, or there is the prospect of the thing to go wrong. So if you apply sympathy, empathy, and compassion, you will be able to address people and communicate with them in a way that is more aligned with what you are trying to do, which is to pass a message across or understand what the other person is telling you. But let's get back to the right side of the brain again. Let's conclude our list of traits, of right side of the brain traits that can help us being a better software developer. There's this one, which is incredibly useful even when you are dealing on the left side of the brain. It's holistic view, the so-called the ability to see the big picture. We need to have this because as human beings, we need perspective and meanings in our life. We need to know that the work that we are making will fit in something better, in some larger order, in some bigger system. This is not just important for motivational reasons, this is also important even when you are working with your left side of the brain. I think that everybody that writes code on a daily basis can agree that it's much more easier that when you are working with some piece of code, it's much more easy if you understand where to put that piece of code inside of your system or your application. So what you are doing there is you are using your holistic vision, your holistic view. And it gets much more meaningful, and that piece of code makes much more sense because you understand how it's being fit in the overall picture. Then we have creativity. There are perhaps a zillion definitions of creativity. I love this one. Creativity as the ability to see the world in different ways. We need creativity a lot. We need creativity to build visions. If we go back a little bit and go to the goals that we discussed that were part of our career, a goal is nothing more than a vision that you have for yourself. And the only way that you have to find a meaningful vision for yourself is to have an holistic view and creativity. You have to be able to see yourself and to see your future in a way different than the reality that you are living at the moment. Then there's this one which is a personal favorite of mine. It's intuition. Intuition, it's our ability to understand the world without reasoning. It's the so-called gut feeling. And this is something that we as software engineers underestimate a lot. If you actually go and talk with pretty much anybody which is in a leadership position, they will tell you that a lot of times they go by gut. I don't know what's happening here, apologies. They will tell you that they go by gut, because not all the decisions are rational. We have a prejudice as software engineers to try to take all the decisions with lots of facts and lots of data, lots of information. That is not wrong. I'm not saying that is wrong. I'm saying that sometimes you really need to rely on your gut. And the way that you can get more comfortable with that is to learn to listen to your intuition and learn to understand what signals you are getting. Because if you do that, when the moment comes that you are faced with a decision that is not rational, that you will need to use your gut feeling, you will be much more comfortable. You will be not feeling awkward about it. Okay, there's definitely some ghost here, perhaps something that remained from last night chasing ghosts, because this thing is going back and forth. So let's take the opportunity to jump once again back to career. And we can look at a very important topic about career, which is the choices that you made. And the choices you made in your career, they can be, or they should be at last, somehow, wow, this is incredible. It's tied to not just the goals that you set for yourself, but also to the companies that you choose to work for. Remember that slide in the beginning? We decide what companies we want to work for, and there is also a morale there. And to try to unveil that morale, let's look at some examples. So if you are working in a small software house, you will be finding a familiar environment there, and you will have lots of latitude. You will have lots of degrees of movement. What you are going to be learning in such an environment, you will be learning about bonding, about connecting to other human beings, because you will be working very tight with them. And you also learn about self-management, because you have lots of latitude and you will need to understand for yourself what is the most suited thing to do at that moment. If you work at the big software house, or if you move from a small software house to a big one, you will find an environment which is much more structured, much more oriented, and much more focused. Typically, on these kinds of environments, you are going to be learning a lot about practices and processes. There's a very nice distinction between the small software houses and the big ones, because on a small software house, perhaps you are the developer or you are part of a team of 2 or 3 developers. So chances are that the practices and processes that are in place there are going to be your responsibility. So you have had the chance to define that. That's nothing wrong with that. And actually, I would say that's an important step in everybody's career to be able to be in the position that at some time or for some time you are able to make the decisions about practices, processes, stacks, and all of that. But it's also good when you go working into a big software house, because you will be exposed to practices and processes that were thought before by people that preceded you there, by a structure that happened before you in time. So there's definitely something to learn that. If you are going to work in consultancy or digital agencies, typically you are going to be moving very fast. If you are on consultancy, you will be perhaps working on customer premises. So you are going to learn a lot about customer relationship and satisfaction, because in these 2 kinds of environments, it's all about the customer. And it's not even about what the customer needs. It's what about the customer wants. And sometimes the customer don't know what he needs. He just knows what he wants. And on this kind of environments, you are going to learn how to react to that, how to please your customer and to understand what he wants. If you are working in a startup, you have a casual environment, which is all about passion. And these are great places to learn about business value and innovation. Startups typically are struggling to make the money last. So it's important that every piece of functionality that you add to your product adds some value to the business. So you will learn about that in startups. And also innovation, because startups are all about creativity. Remember that slide with the guy with the head exploded with many colors? So it's about seeing the world in different ways. And typically startups start with founders that have different ideas or different perspectives about services, about products, or they thought of new ways to present and sell those services. And so the innovation is very much ingrained in the spirit and the DNA of startups. So you can learn a lot about innovation in startups. That's why, as a software engineer, you will probably be in a position where you are experimenting with the latest trends in the market, with the latest frameworks, with the latest things, because it's all about innovation. On the other side, if you are working on a growing company, you bet that you will be in an environment which is under permanent transformation. You will be, or you and the company will be, always aiming and shooting at all the targets at the same moment. And this is great because here you will have the chance to learn a lot about how market works, how your competitors compete against you. And since the environment is under permanent transformation, you will learn, or you will need to learn a lot about change management. And I'm not just speaking about change management in software. I'm speaking about in more broader terms. Like in organization. The company's organizations are perpetually adjusting, and you will learn a lot to be flexible and to be responsive to those changes, which, if you come to think of it, are great lessons for you to take into your life outside of your work. And then there is big corporations. I will not be telling you about this because I have never worked on any big corporation. Perhaps if TalkDesk grows a lot and if I stay enough time with TalkDesk, I will be able to learn about how big corporations work in the first hand. So I have some ideas at the moment, but I will be not sharing with you. And I also have an intuition about what you can learn with big corporations, but in contrary to all the other examples that I gave, which were derived from places that I actually worked for, I have never worked here, so I don't have a first-hand experience. So I'm going to skip this one, but I just wanted to include it here for the sake of completion. So we are coming to a close here. Our original question was, how can you turn into a better software engineer? And as you might have seen it coming, it boils down to learn to use your whole brain. So not just left side. Yes, left side is very important because that's what people pay you. It's to use, to think, to use your left side of the brain. But don't forget that's also the right side of the brain, which is very important. So our proposal here is to learn to use the whole brain and to make sound career choices. And this is very important because we are in a fast market with lots of offers, and typically when we get approached by a company, we just look at it by the amount of money that we are getting. We are just looking at how cool the stacks of that company is, and how great that will sound when we tell our friends when we're having a beer with them at night, that you are working on that career with this stack. But I challenge you to go a little bit beyond that. Go a little bit beyond the code and try to understand the learning potential that there is in such companies. Try to understand how that particular company can fit in your whole person. What competencies are you going to be able to achieve and to gain there? So, if everything that we have been saying on the last 30 or 40 minutes was meaningless or not useful for you, I would like just to pass you these 7 ideas, if my computer allows me. Let's try to play this game. I really don't have a clue about what's going on, but I'll give it a try. So, use the right side of the brain. Keep investing on your left side of the brain because that's important, but remember that you also have also a right side and that you need to use and... Okay, is there any way that I can turn this off? So use the right side of your brain. Build a vision of what do you want to do. This is getting tricky. This is getting tricky. I don't know how to shut this down. Okay, no problem. I think that we are kind of ending this in some way. Okay, so build a vision about where you want to go, about what you want to be. Set some goals because those goals will help you understand how far or how close you are from your vision. And perhaps those goals can help inform you if you really still need that vision, if that vision still makes sense for you. Then choose the right companies. Choose the companies with most learning potential for you. Then, very important, and this one is kind of implicit, and this one, give to get, is very much right side of the brain, and it's something that we are not wired to do, and it's something that this industry does not wire us to think in this way. Give to get. What this means? Give first and hope to get later. So it's important that we are open to give something before we are having the opportunity to get something back. Then it's not going to happen overnight. You are not becoming a better software engineer overnight. It will take time. It will take goals. It will take failures. It will take lots of wrong moves. It will take readjustments. So give it time. It's not going to happen overnight. And first, the last one, which is definitely perhaps the most important, is learn to take care of yourself. There is no way that you are going to be able to become a better software engineer if there is no you at the hand. So you need to learn to take care of yourself. And I hope you had fun on this talk, which, by the way, fun is something which is right side of the brain. So go on and have fun. And I thank you very much for your time and for being here. I think that we might have some minutes for questions. So if you are willing to make some questions, I will be happy to answer. If there is no time or if the question just arrives some moments later, I have left the stage, just find me at the talk desk booth. I'll be hanging around there, and I will be mostly happy to discuss with you or talk with you about anything. Thank you very much. Questions?
If I'm in a position where I can influence the culture of the company, what do you think can we do or can we improve to nurture or incentivize or empathy, sympathy, all those values?
That's an excellent question. So the question I'm going to repeat because there is no microphone. So the question is, if you are in a position of influence in a company, how can you use that influence to make sympathy, empathy, and compassion part of the company, of the culture? So being in that position is probably what is going to be the key for you to be able to influence the position. So this means that these kinds of behaviors must come from up. We always tend to follow whoever is up in the hierarchy. So it's very important that the people that are on the top of the companies have the right values, and they are the ones to drive those kinds of traits: sympathy, empathy, compassion. So it's very important. So I would say that if you are the guy which is in charge, it's up to you to set the record and to kind of show by example to the people that those are the kinds of attitudes that you want to support in the company and that you see as attitudes that can foster the company. Yep, of course.
When hiring, do you look for special traits for the people to see that they will nurture?
Yeah, we can. I will speak more, answer more directly, and we'll be using TalkDesk example. But yes, we kind of we try to understand if that person makes a good fit in our culture, and if it fits in our values, if it's like a good person. So I think it's very important that you start out by hiring the right people and the people that fit with not just the culture that you have at the moment, but with the culture that you want to evolve in the future. Thank you.
I have a question that I saw that you have passion on the right side, passion. And passion can disregulate a lot of things that we talk about. So how you juggle with passion with all the other traits?
That's an excellent question. So the question is, being passion some trait of the right side of the brain, and sometimes passion can go wild. How can we get things in balance? And at least my opinion, the answer for that is that slide where I showed the two halves of the brain and then the bridge the gap. So it's correct, passion is something of the right side of the brain, and passion sometimes can go crazy, but then it's precisely where you use the left side of the brain, where is your control. So too much passion will not be good, as too much reason will not be good. So there needs to be like a balance, like you said, and when you are aware, that's why it's important, that emotional intelligence stuff. When you are aware that passion is kind of overrunning you and overrunning your life, you need to put some reason, you need perhaps to exercise the other side. So this is my take on it. Any other questions? Okay, so thanks a lot. If anybody else pops, just reach me around Pixel Scam. Thank you very much.